Thank you very much, and fantastic to see such a full house. My name's Alistair Williamson. I'm the Chief Executive of Ranplan, and I intend to go through a presentation of about 35 minutes, and then we'll have a question and answer session, and then we have another session where we can mingle. There's some food being served, and there's some beer and some wine where we can just get to know each other a bit better. So, why are we here? So Ranplan, is the name of the company, is at the forefront of wireless network planning technology. So what we offer is a software package that allows operators such as Telenor, Telia, Vodafone to actually plan in-building wireless networks for Wi-Fi, 4G, 3G and 5G. And in actual fact, if you look on the roof, on the ceiling ahead of you, you can see an antenna there beside the projector. That is a 4G wireless in-building antenna. That's why you can get good reception inside this room with your mobile phone. So our tool allows mobile operators to plan these networks, but it's not just mobile operators that use our tool to plan these networks. Companies such as Ericsson and Huawei, all the big equipment vendors, buy our tool to plan in-building wireless networks. Our tool is also used in the public safety market, which is a very important market. That's wireless networks that are built to support the ambulance, the police and the fire brigade. These organizations use our tool to plan in-building wireless networks. Our tool is also used in the industrial Internet of Things. So if I give you an example, companies like Samsung that want to plan wireless networks within their production facilities to improve their productivity, to connect their machines together, they use a planning tool to plan those in-building wireless networks. And there's another market, the smart city market, which is very, very fast-growing market. Smart cities are wireless networks that are built deep in the canyon at street level to connect all the metering for smart metering, to connect all the lighting for smart lighting, to control congestion, to eventually start to control autonomous vehicles. Our tool is used in many cities by the municipalities to plan those smart city networks. One of the key capabilities of our tool is that we don't just plan in-building wireless networks. When we plan in-building wireless networks, we plan them in coordination with the outdoor network, and I'll explain why that's very important. We are the only company that has that capability of planning joint in-building and outdoor dense urban wireless networks. We have commercial agreements with companies like Ericsson, Huawei, Verizon and Tioco, and I'll go through those in a minute. We're a commercial company. We're generating revenues. We're not a startup. I'd just like to introduce the management team. There's myself, Alistair Williamson. I've been in this market for about 25 years with companies such as Lucent, Alcatel-Lucent, Nokia, and before I joined Ranplan, I was with a company called Cambridge Broadband, where I took, it's a startup company in Cambridge, where I took their revenues up to about $40 million. My education is physics, so I'm a physicist, but I actually got out of physics pretty quickly and moved into the commercial world. Not only do I actually run Ranplan as the chief executive, I also run the sales organization in Ranplan. We're very, very commercially driven. Hui Song is our CTO. He's been with the company since the start. He's got a PhD in wireless communications from Bedford University, which is just south of Cambridge. Very well known in this industry. He's published many papers, sits on a lot of committees discussing standards, and has written various books and contributed to a significant number of patent applications. Chris Caswell, who's with me, is our CFO. Chris is a chartered accountant, qualified through Price Waterhouse, has been involved in a lot of companies, mainly in Europe, manufacturing companies, large conglomerates. And I met Chris in my last company where we actually raised the company from 0 to 40 million in a few years. And we both left that company and joined Ranplan. We have a very strong board. We have the chairman of the board is Mats Andersson. Some of you may know him, previously COO of the Swedish Telecom Authority. He sits on plenty boards of companies listed on the NASDAQ. So he's got a huge amount of experience how companies should perform on the NASDAQ. Lars Inge is also joined as a board member. He's the CEO of Gapwaves, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you know Gapwaves. Gapwaves is listed on NASDAQ First North. So he's got a lot of experience as a CEO running a listed company on the NASDAQ First North. He also has experience in the area, the technology area that we're working in. Professor Ji Zhang, please. Professor Zhang is the founder of the company. He founded the company in 2006, and I'll take you through the timelines of the company. G is an academic. He started his career at Imperial College London, then moved to Oxford University, then moved to Sheffield University, where he currently is the professor of the wireless chair at Sheffield University. Sheffield University is a very strong engineering university, and I'll take you through a bit more of Professor Zhang's history later on the slides. Also, very, very happy to have Per Lindberg on the board. Per, as some of you may know, used to work for Ericsson, but left Ericsson and became a telecom investment analyst and has worked in London and Stockholm and is very, very well known in this market, understands our technology, understands the market, and we're very, very happy to have Per on board. I said that we are not a startup. This is really important. We have commercial contracts in place with some very, very large customers. We have a contract in place with Verizon that we signed in December 2017. Verizon is the largest mobile operator in the US. They have approved Ranplan, and their statement is that every in-building wireless network that's designed for Verizon and built for Verizon has to use the Ranplan planning tool. Huawei is a large customer of ours. Huawei is the largest telecommunication equipment vendor in the world. All of the in-building wireless networks that are planned by Huawei are planned using Ranplan software. Tiyoko is another company we have a contract with. We use Tiyoko as a reseller. They are an outdoor planning company. They have got an outdoor planning tool, and they desperately want to get into the in-building space. So we have set them up as a reseller, and they are reselling our tool into their existing customer base. They have about 1,000 people in their company, and they have contracts with over 300 customers. We have a contract with Ericsson. Ericsson was actually one of our lead customers, and they helped us significantly in developing the product. We have a contract with Telenor. We have a contract with Ooredoo in the Middle East. We have engagements with Orange, AT&T, Singtel, T-Mobile. So just to give you a flavour, those are just some of our customers. These are very big and well-established customers. So why are we here? We're looking to capitalise on the company's favourable market position, and we're going to float the company or float the shares in June this year, basically to raise additional capital to get more sales, marketing and technical sales support into the organisation. We've got these contracts. We need people to go globally to start to monetize these contracts. Our choice of Stockholm was predicated on two things. The NASDAQ brand is very, very important for us. Our biggest market is in the US and also in Asia Pac, where the NASDAQ brand lends significant credibility to a company like Ranplan. The second reason that we chose Stockholm is we're a wireless company. Now, Sweden has traditionally been known as being extremely knowledgeable in wireless technology. So there's a big pool of talent that we can draw upon in Sweden to help us in our journey moving forward. I just wanted to give you a sort of, this is a visualization, there we go. bit of technology. So this is what our tool does. It takes in all the building information, the size of the building, what the floors are made of, what the walls are made of, what the doors are made of, what the windows are made of, and then we create a 3D building. And then what we do is we actually build the in-building wireless network. This one here is for a 4G mobile network in a hotel and also for a public safety network within the hotel. We build that in-building wireless network, then we run predictions to see what level of coverage that network will provide and what level of capacity that it will provide to all the users. This is absolutely critical in ensuring that you are building a world-class in-building wireless network. Here's another example. This is actually the Super Bowl. So once again, our tool has extracted all the information about the building itself, the stadium, how thick the walls are, what the doors are made of, what the floor's made of, and we create that 3 building structure in our tool. Then we build the in-building wireless network, and then we predict how that network is going to perform. We obviously want to ensure that when we build a network that it performs efficiently and provides an excellent quality of service for the people within the building. I talked about our indoor and joint outdoor capability. This is San Francisco. So what we've done is we've imported all of the buildings of San Francisco. It's very simple, it takes seconds. We import that into our tool. You can see all the buildings. And there's 3 buildings here that we want to build an in-building wireless network. So what we're doing is we're looking at the outdoor network and making sure that it doesn't interfere with the in-building network. And this is very important because operators spend billions of dollars on spectrum. You know, they will spend $4 billion on buying some spectrum from the government. They will use the same spectrum in the building that they will use out of the building. And obviously, if you don't plan it in coordination, you'll get interference from both networks. So hence we have the joint indoor-outdoor capability within our tool, which is absolutely critical for operators. We have commercial contracts in place. We have a fully developed software package, and it's totally patented. Obviously, the software is copyrighted, but we have patents that surround the tool itself. It is the most accurate prediction tool on the market. We support 3G, 4G, 5G, IoT, Wi-Fi, public safety networks. As I said, we've got existing contracts with significant players in the market. The total addressable market is about $320 million US in 2022. So that's our market. That's the market that we're going after. 5G, as you all know, is coming quickly to us. 5G networks are going to start to be deployed in 2019. With 5G, the need of a planning tool becomes even more and more important because you now have probably 100 more antennas to build an in-building wireless network compared with 4G. So if we take that antenna above on the ceiling as being a 4G antenna, you need 100 more of those to provide the same coverage and capacity. So you then begin to realize how complex these in-building wireless networks are. An interesting point, 80% of cellular mobile traffic, so all the traffic that comes from our mobile phones is generated from in-buildings. It's us uploading, downloading videos, surfing on the net, sending social media messages to each other. All of that traffic, 80% of it is generated from within buildings. And only 2% of commercial buildings have dedicated in-building wireless networks. And I'm happy to say this hotel is one of the 2%, so that's really good news. Now, analysts are saying when 5G comes along, to be able to support 5G, then 80% of buildings will have to have dedicated in-building wireless networks. And our tool is the tool that allows operators and equipment vendors to plan those networks. We look to increase our sales to, we aim to increase our sales to more than $25 million in 2022, and we aim to have an EBITDA of $11 million US. As you can imagine, we're a software company, so we have exceedingly high margins. As a software company, we offer term-based licenses and perpetual-based licenses. So a customer can buy a license for 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, give it back to us, then buy it again for 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. So we have a subscription model, but we also sell licenses as perpetual licenses so that the customer owns that license for life. Then what he has to do is pay us 22% annual maintenance support every year. So every year we get another 22% of that money coming in. So we build these reoccurring revenues, a big bank of reoccurring revenues. Market overview. I just want to tell you who our customers are. So there's the mobile operators. They own the spectrum. Verizon, Telenor, Telia, Orange, Vodafone. The mobile operators own the spectrum. They're our customers. They're building and designing in-building wireless networks. There's about 300 mobile operators around the world, and a mobile operator would potentially buy up to about 200 licenses, just to give you an idea of the size. Telecom equipment vendors, there's about 800 of them. They range from Ericsson, Huawei, CommScope, down to smaller equipment manufacturers. They buy licenses from us because they need to plan in-building wireless networks to actually deliver to the operators. There are design consultants, I've mentioned 2 here that you probably know. They buy licenses from Ranplan because they actually have design contracts with operators to plan these in-building wireless networks. There is a very big market in the system integrator space. There is about 8,000 system integrators around the world that install in-building wireless networks. They buy licenses from us because they need to understand where to install the in-building wireless network. Then there's the planning people, and that's where we sit. And the last segment is the neutral host segment, which is a very aggressively growing market for us. These are companies that will go into a building, build one network, and then lease it to 4 operators. So the return on investment is it's far greater. They're buying licenses from us. So the markets, there's the mobile communication market. That's very, very clear. That's operator markets where they're building 5G networks, 4G networks in buildings. As I said, 80% of mobile traffic is generated indoors, and only 2% of buildings have commercial indoor mobile networks. So there's a huge demand to actually plan these networks and deploy these networks. The public safety market, that is building wireless networks for the ambulance, the police, the fire brigade. They have their own dedicated networks, and all over the world they are currently upgrading those networks from old standards to LTE because they want the ambulance, the police force, their first responders to have body cams so that operational people can actually see what's happening inside an emergency. That's a big market for us. Just in the US alone, they've invested $7 billion to get FirstNet, the public safety network in the US, up and going. And Trump is putting another $40 billion into public safety networks. They all need to be planned, and they use our tool to plan those in-building wireless networks. The industrial Internet of Things. You know, there's going to be 50 billion connected devices by 2020, both indoor and outdoor. Large companies are looking to automate their factories. Railroads are looking to automate their yards. They're looking at how to plan those networks using new IoT technologies, and our tool allows them to plan those wireless networks. The smart city market projected to grow to $1,200 billion by 2022. That's a market where governments and new municipalities are using our tool to build smart wireless networks deep in the street level to connect all of their street lighting, to control traffic congestion, to control smart metering, and eventually to be able to control automated vehicles or autonomous vehicles. One key point that I should say, which is very important, Ranplan cuts the CapEx by up to 30% for deployed wireless networks. And what I mean by that is when someone uses our tool, it reduces the amount of equipment they need to deploy inside that building by up to 30%. So there's a huge saving from the operator or anyone that's planning a network to utilize our tool to reduce the costs of the network that's going to be deployed. So a bit about Ranplan. So we are a pure software company. We're headquartered in Sweden and we have operational subsidiaries in the UK, the US and China. We have 3 software product suites and I'll take you through them shortly. As I said before, we look to aim to increase our sales to more than 25 million by 2022. We've got existing customers, some very big customers already in place. We have 27 people in the UK as of today, and that's where we write all the software code. Our office is near Cambridge, so that's the Silicon Valley in UK. We attract a lot of clever people to help us develop the software. We have 19 in China. In China, it's a low cost but very highly educated workforce that we use to actually test our software. So before we send it to a customer, they do all the automated testing to make sure that it's a robust piece of software. And currently we have 11 salespeople across America, Europe and Asia Pacific. And it's obviously that sales, that technical sales headcount that we need to increase to start to drive those revenues forward and monetize on all of those contracts we have in place. We have 10 granted patents and 10 pending, although I do believe yesterday, we received 1 more. So we've actually got 11 granted and 9 pending. Just briefly, our timeline. We were formed in 2006. We were dormant for 2 years. We did nothing for 2 years. But in 2008, Professor Zhang started to get some EU research projects committed. So we bid for projects, we were given the money, and we did the research, and we published the research. All of that research was focusing on in-building wireless propagation. 2014 to 2016, we started to commercialize the product. We developed the product, we started patenting, we did trials with some large customers, and the 2 key customers we worked with were Ericsson and Huawei. We signed agreements with those 2, and in 2016 we did revenues of $2.5 million. And in 2016 we didn't have our own sales team. What we did is we partnered with a Swiss company called Ascom, and Ascom had about 160 salespeople, so we gave them the ability to sell our tool into the market. So they were reselling our tool. We didn't actually do any selling ourselves. We let Ascom resell our tool. They did about $2.5 million, which is what they paid us, but obviously what they sold to the end user was closer to about $5 million. In 2017, unfortunately, Ascom was acquired by another company. That other company had a commercial relationship with one of our competitors. So we had to terminate that contract, and we made the bold and great decision to start to build our own sales team and sell directly into the market and take Ascom away from being a reseller. Obviously, we then moved from 156 salespeople with Ascom down to about 11 with Ranplan. So we had to start to build our business up again. But obviously, all of the margin came to Ranplan. We have 3 products. Ranplan Professional, that focuses on the large venues, airports, stadiums, commercial enterprise. And we have another product called Ranplan Tablet that focuses on smaller buildings. Obviously, both products are priced to ensure that we can actually capture all of that market. We also have Ranplan Manager. Now, Ranplan Manager is a workflow tool. A customer such as Verizon, would buy Ranplan Manager to manage all of their in-building wireless projects. To give you an idea of the size of that market, that we're playing in at the moment, Ranplan Professional will address, and this is the US only, external numbers, will address about $27 billion worth of a market. Our Ranplan tablet addresses the two lower parts of the pyramid, where there's a lot more buildings, but smaller buildings, and that's about a $20 billion market. So that's the market that Ranplan's playing in. Just to explain how we go to market. So you can see the four markets that we're playing in: mobile comms, smart city, Internet of Things, public safety. We sell direct, so we have sales guys that are out there selling direct into the market, and we sell globally. We've sold in every continent in the world. We also, in some countries, have resellers. In Japan, we have a reseller because it makes it easier, because the Japanese can speak to the Japanese. So we have a reseller in Japan that's closing a deal with Docomo in the next few months. We have resellers in Brazil, Mexico, Indonesia, Vietnam, Malaysia, where you need a reseller. And we also have, as I explained earlier, white label technology partners helping us to sell. The company Tioco, that's actually already got existing contracts with over 300 companies. We're allowing them to resell our products to their existing customers. What I'd like to do now is just quickly introduce you to Christopher Caswell. And Chris is going to take you briefly through our financial statement.
Well, good evening. First of all, I'm the oldest member of the management team. I think so. Hopefully you can all hear me. I've been with the company now for 4 years and been responsible for all the financial results since 2014. Before working for Ranplan, I used to work with Alistair in another company. We're going to have a look at the 2016 full year, the 2017 full year. These have been properly audited by Pricewaterhouse, my old firm. We're going to have a look at the first quarter of 18, and we're going to compare that to the first quarter of 17. As Alistair explained, in 2016, we were selling through a reseller. We were not involved with selling, so that's why we had 22 million SEK of sales. That was 160 people selling for us. In 2017, we started our own sales force. We dropped down to 10 million of sales. But those sales, even though they were only 10 million, they were all over the world. So we were selling in the United States, in the Far East, we were selling all over Europe. In the first quarter of this year, we have sold just under 7 million sales in 3 months, compared to 10 million in the whole of last year. Yeah? And what you should know is that when we sold that 10 million last year, we carried forward orders which we had got in 17. We carried forward orders of about 7 million into the new financial year. So in the first 3 months, we have invoiced to our customers for just under 7 million, and we have carried forward into the rest of this year another 7.5 million orders, which we will invoice in the next few months. Yeah? But the main point to see is that we have gone from 10 in 12 months to just under 7 in 3 months. Yeah? And we are carrying forward into the next rest of the year another 7 million. When you look at the structure of our costs, which is mainly this area here, we are predominantly 77% or 75 to 77% of our costs are people. So this is people, including all their pensions and all that sort of thing. But we have no strong fixed costs. We have a small workforce, and that workforce is the much more than 3/4 of all our cost is the workforce. You'll notice we have no depreciation or no significant. We don't have fixed assets. We don't invest in buildings. We don't invest in machinery, because our people is what we invest in. Yeah. So that of our cost base, 75% or more is people. The next biggest element of our cost actually is travel. So we've got about 5% of our sales is people traveling around the world, because our customers can be in Australia, or they can be in Singapore, or they're in Dallas. Yeah. So we are spending a lot of time, a lot of money sending our sales force around the world. It's interesting that we have very modest accommodation, and we spend very little on rent. We actually spend more money on patent lawyers than we do on the rent of our offices. So we are not a company living in luxurious offices. We have very modest but pleasant offices near Cambridge, and we have a nice office in Dallas, Texas. Yeah. So the other item I must explain to you, this other operating income, this 3 million here, 4 million there, we have a unique situation that the British government likes to support research and development. And the British government pay us cash. At the end of each year, I explain how much we've spent on our research and development, and the British government give us a big amount of cash back as a part of that. It's approximately the equivalent of 3 to 4 months' salary for each person we involve in the research. So the British government is more or less supporting or subsidising all the research we do, and this is giving us a cash in. So, all right, we spent 26 million on people. Part of that is the research. The British government gave us back over 4 million in the form of real cash. It's not a credit with no value to it. So we get cash on the bank, which is equivalent to 3 to 4 months' salary of every person we employ who is doing the research for us. And as I said, negligible depreciation, and so we are not spending money on buildings. We're not spending money on expensive equipment. We are spending money on very clever people. All right, Alice, if you want to take us through. This is the balance sheet. Last year, 2 years ago, end of December 17, the balance sheet as of today, the balance sheet equivalent end of March in 2017. The first thing you see, fixed assets, almost nothing. Yeah? So we are not spending money, as I've tried to explain before. One of the important things is that we have such strong customers, we get paid quickly. We are working with the big corporations, they issue purchase orders, and within a few weeks we get paid by these big customers. So one of the main positives is that, for instance, end of 16, we sold for over 22 million of sales. By the end of the year, everybody had paid us. And in the first quarter of this year, we had sales of 6.6 million SEK. We had cash in from customers of 6 million. So there is a very good cash flow from our customers that we don't wait long time for our thing. We're dealing with our customer base are these big organizations who pay once they've agreed to give you an order. It's almost like clockwork that the money comes out and we get paid by that. All of the rest of the balance sheet matters are basically to do with payroll. Yeah. So we always have to pay the government about 1 or 2 months later. You're paying over the Social Security and that sort of thing. So it's a very, very simple balance sheet construction with really just the receivables from our customers, which is on average about 2 months worth of sales. I think that's all I need to say.
Okay, perfect. Thanks very much. Looking at the transaction, so as I think as explained earlier, the prospectus will be coming out sometime next week, and the subscription period will start sometime next week. It will flow for about 2 weeks. Once that prospectus is made available, Leica has all of your contact details. We'll be actually sending you the prospectus or a soft copy of that prospectus, as well as a soft copy of this set of slides. And within that prospectus, it will actually lay out the details of the offer itself. But what I want to do is just as a takeaway for you to look at this company. We are working in a very fast-growing market. So we're working in a market of billions of dollars where we have an addressable market of $320 million. That's the market we're going after. We have got big, large customers that are really aggressively moving into in-building wireless networks and are demanding a tool from Ranplan to plan those wireless networks. We're a software company. Our margins are very, very high. And I think quite importantly, we've got a good, strong management team and a very good, strong board team. And I think if you put all of that together, you can see it's a recipe for really driving this company forward, getting those revenues that we've forecasted, and join the journey in a very, very growing market. So I would just like to say thank you very much for listening to me. We're going to have some questions and answers. And then we also, I believe, there is some food laid on outside of this room where we can actually mingle. You can meet with Christopher, our CFO, with Professor Zhang, our founder, Per, our board member, as well as Jonas from Noventus, who is actually the broker within this deal. Thank you.
Thank you, Ranplan. Thank you for a great presentation.
Pleasure.
Let's open up for some questions. Okay, let's start over here.
Christopher mentioned that British government gives you a lot of money for and how will Brexit
So I will repeat the question.
Yeah.
Yes, how will Brexit affect that fact?
So the question, I need to repeat the question. So the question that was asked was the British government contributes quite a lot of money to the company as a credit, and how would Brexit affect that?
The answer is this is a pure domestic British only. It is absolutely has no influence on who's the owner of the British company, and it's purely the British government just wants inside Britain to have healthy companies which are investing in development. So it means almost certainly we won't move the development part of the company out of Britain. Why should we? Cambridge is the place to get clever people, and that's why we're... So that Brexit will have zero effect on us.
Yes, my question is, what are your USPs, your special features? And also, I take for granted that the big operators do have their in-house or bespoke planning systems.
Okay.
In place, or because they have been planning from the start, so to say, so they must have in-house bespoke systems. That,
Okay, so the question for everyone was, what are our USPs? And the second part of the question was, do our customers have their own bespoke tools? So if I can answer the first question on USP. So what's our unique selling point? So we had our software benchmarked by a third party, and we've also had feedback from customers. So our tool is the only tool that does joint indoor and dense outdoor wireless network planning, which is critically important because operators use the same spectrum outdoor that they use indoor, and if you don't plan them in coordination, you'll get interference and your network will perform very badly. The other USP that we have is accuracy, and we can show you reports which demonstrate how accurate our tool is. You want a planning tool that actually is extremely accurate. So we have the most accurate planning tool on the market. To look at your question regarding in-house tools. So traditionally, mobile operators have bought outdoor planning tools from outdoor planning vendors, okay? And there's currently 3 in the world that do outdoor planning, 3 companies. And so the mobile operators have bought their tools to do their outdoor planning. In-building planning is currently in its infancy. So only 2% of buildings have in-building wireless networks. And as I said earlier, that's growing dramatically as 80% of mobile traffic is coming from within buildings. And analysts are predicting that 80% of buildings will have in-building wireless networks. So to answer your question, the mobile operators don't have bespoke in-building wireless network planning tools. They're actually coming to us for those planning tools. Thank you.
More questions? Yes, please, go ahead.
Well, you said that people is important
Yes.
for you. Are they staying with you or leaving? And if they do, what happens?
So we have a very loyal employee base. A significant portion of our employees have been with the company since we started the company. We have a very, very low turnover of employees, extremely low. Everyone is excited in our company to start this journey, grow the company, and benefit from the company. What I can say is that having a base in Stockholm and having an office in Cambridge, we do have access to expert, highly qualified wireless engineers and software coders. So we're in the right space to actually get people into the company.
I just wonder how long is the sales cycle from the first contact
Brilliant.
to the order, and also I would like to your sales plans. You said that you have right now 11 salespeople.
Yes.
But at the same time, it would be very hard, to cover as much as you like. So, what about resellers and the mix between, so to say, and how fast are you going to expand? And what is possible to expand within your economical needs, so to say?
Okay. So the question was, how can we build the team, and how can we? What's the mix of resellers versus direct sales, and how we will actually take this product to the market? Is that correct?
Right.
Okay. So what I want to explain to you is that we firmly believe that you need a mix of different types of ways to get to the market. You cannot 100% rely on building your own sales organization as a company our size, but our intent is to increase our sales team from the current 11 through to closer to 39 salespeople. Okay? Yes. Yes. So the intent is to really build that, so the use of proceeds is mainly focused on technical sales and commercial sales. We also realize that you can't rely solely on your sales team. So to answer your question on the mix, we appoint resellers in countries where you really need to have a significant local presence to sell. Japan. You need to be in Japan, Japanese speaking, to sell in that territory. So in those countries such as Japan, Brazil, Mexico, Indonesia, Vietnam, Malaysia, Philippines, Thailand, we've appointed resellers because they're there, they know the customers, they have deep relationships with these customers, and so we leverage that.
Are they up and running, so to say?
Yes, the countries I've listed, we have resellers signed up and working for us.
the sales cycle?
I'll get to that one right after I also say
Okay.
we also in the mix have white label tech resellers. A company like Tioco that has got 1,000 people, it's got over 200 sales guys, and they've got over 300 existing customers, mobile operators all over the world. So we use them and we brand our product Tioco. So it looks like a Tioco product, but it's our product, and they resell it into their existing markets, into their existing customers that they already have contracts with. So those are the three mixes of going to market. And the last question that you had for me was sales cycle, which is a brilliant question. So if I can give you an idea of a large mobile operator, and we signed a contract with Verizon in December last year, so a couple of months ago, that has taken us probably 8 months to go from testing the software, getting it approved, getting it through procurement, and getting a contract signed. So that took a long time. However, as with Verizon, the contract states that all of their partners, all of the equipment vendors that supply equipment to them, all of the system integrators that build in-building wireless networks have to use Ranplan software. So it's a long cycle for the big Verizon, but for the guys that work for Verizon that are now told to use Ranplan, that's a very short cycle. We can get an order in a matter of a week, 2 weeks, once you've got that high-level approval in place.
Thank you.
Okay.
More questions? Okay, back there.
I'm trying to reach you here. Well, I understand you work with most of the big organizations, but there's a whole lot of houses that already have the Wi-Fi all over. I think there's no house actually who doesn't have it. So what's your USP to make them change? Or do you always go through the big organizations?
We're not looking to sell our product into the retail market, into the domestic market. Okay, you know, that's not our market. Our market is selling through large operators and equipment vendors that build in-building wireless networks for large hotels, for big venues. We're not looking at the housing residential market.
Okay, Alistair, I put in a question. Looking at 5G compared to 4G, how is the planning going there? How are your position in 5G looking forward?
Great question. So evolution from 4G to 5G actually drives our business multifold upwards. And if I can just explain why. So to get the same amount of coverage with a 5G system compared with a 4G system, you'd need approximately another 100 more antennas, like the one that's above us on the ceiling, to provide that coverage. So as we go up to 5G, we get much, much smaller cells, but providing more capacity, and it becomes even more complex to design in-building wireless networks, as you need to have a very accurate planning tool. So we see 5G, in answer to your question, as accelerating the growth of Ranplan quite dramatically.
Okay, and when will we see revenue coming from the 5G area?
So we're in discussions with various operators about 5G. Currently at the moment, in most countries, they're going through 5G trials. All of the equipment vendors, Ericsson, the Huawei and Nokia's, are actually trialing 5G with multiple operators around the world. The expectation, not just from myself or our company, but also from the market, is that 5G networks will start to be deployed in 2019. So we will start to see more revenue coming through from 5G in 2019 onwards.
Some more questions? Okay, I have a last one. You were talking about the margins.
Yes,
As a software company, you have high margins.
yes.
Can you say anything about how high
Well,
going forward?
As a software company, our margins are in excess of 90%. It's probably the best way I can put it to you all. So it's a high margin software platform.
Okay, that's great. If we don't have any more questions, I must say thank you, Alistair, and thank you, Ranplan.
Thank you very much.